Honey, let me tell you how I gave $15 million away to strangers right in front of my family's eyes. Yeah, you heard that right. $15 million cash. They thought they could force me to split my fortune with my spoiled sister. Thought they could break my heart with crocodile tears and sweet lies to open up my wallet. But they underestimated Eve. Because when I found out what was really going on behind the scenes, when I discovered how they'd been playing me for years, stealing from me, and then expected me to smile and split it all, well, honey, I wrote a check, a very big check, but not to my sister's name, to every stranger who actually deserved it. And my sister's face when she found out, that moment, that look of pure horror, was worth every single cent of that $15 million. Now, sit down and get comfortable, because this one's gonna take us on a journey through betrayal, greed, and the sweetest revenge you ever did see. Part 1, The Golden Child and the Workhorse. Let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand how we got here. My sister's name is Victoria. Victoria Elaine Montgomery. Even her name sounds expensive, doesn't it? That's because my parents made sure everything about Victoria screamed special from the day she was born. I'm the oldest. Came into this world on a rainy Tuesday in March. Nothing fancy, just another baby. But Victoria? Oh, Victoria arrived 3 years later on Christmas Eve, and my mother swore up and down it was a sign from God that this child was blessed. Blessed, chosen, destined for greatness. Me? I was just Eve. Plain Eve. The responsible one. The one who did her homework without being asked. The one who got a job at 14 to buy her own school supplies because we were teaching her responsibility. Meanwhile, Victoria got a brand new car for her 16th birthday. A red convertible that she crashed 2 months later. And Daddy just bought her another one. I'm not bitter about my childhood. Well, maybe I am a little. But I learned something valuable from being the forgotten child, the one nobody made a fuss over. I learned that if I wanted anything in this life, I had to work for it myself. Nobody was going to hand me nothing on a silver platter. So that's what I did. I worked. Lord, did I work. I put myself through community college working 2 jobs, waitressing at a diner during the day and cleaning offices at night. My parents didn't help. They said college was optional for me, but they'd already started a college fund for Victoria, even though she was still in middle school. They said I was so independent and didn't need help like Victoria did. Translation? Victoria was worth investing in. I wasn't. But you know what? I didn't let that break me. I transferred to a 4-year university, took out loans, worked my behind off, and graduated with a degree in business administration. Top of my class, too. My parents didn't come to my graduation. Victoria had a dance recital the same day, and of course, that took priority. After college, I moved to Chicago, got away from all that toxic family dynamic, and started fresh. I worked in corporate America for a few years, hated every minute of it, the politics, the backstabbing, the glass ceiling that seemed impossible to break through as a black woman in a white man's world. So I did something crazy. I quit, took every penny I'd saved, and started my own business, a consulting firm helping small businesses with their financial planning and growth strategies. People thought I'd lost my mind. My parents certainly did. My mother called me crying, saying I was throwing my life away and being foolish. But I wasn't being foolish. I was being smart. I saw an opportunity, a gap in the market, and I went for it. The first year was hell. I lived in a studio apartment that was basically a closet with a bathroom. I ate ramen noodles for dinner more nights than I care to remember. I worked 18-hour days, hustling for every single client. But slowly, it started to work. By year 2, I had a small office and 3 employees. By year 5, I had 2 office locations and 20 employees. By year 10, I had offices in 5 cities and was pulling in 7 figures annually. And my family? Oh, suddenly they remembered I existed. Part 2. The phone calls start. It started small. A phone call from my mother. "Eve, honey, how are you? We miss you so much. You never come visit anymore." This from a woman who hadn't called me on my birthday in 3 years. "I'm busy, Mama. Running a business takes time." "Oh, I know, baby. We're so proud of you." "Your father was just saying the other day how smart you are." Speaking of which, Victoria's having some trouble with her finances. You know how she is with money. Bless her heart. I was thinking maybe you could talk to her, give her some advice. And there it was, the real reason for the call. See, while I was building an empire, Victoria was living her best life. She'd gone to an expensive private college, paid for entirely by our parents, of course. Got a degree in art history. Art history! And then proceeded to do absolutely nothing with it. She married some guy named Brandon right out of college. Brandon came from money, or at least his parents did. They bought Victoria and Brandon a house. A nice house. 4 bedrooms in the suburbs with a 2-car garage and a white picket fence. But Brandon turned out to be not quite the catch everyone thought he was. He couldn't keep a job. Went through 5 different career paths in as many years. Meanwhile, Victoria was spending money like it was going out of style. Designer handbags. Luxury vacations. A different new car every 2 years. After 8 years of marriage, Brandon left her. Just up and left one day. Turns out he'd been having an affair with his yoga instructor. Classic. Victoria was devastated. Genuinely devastated. And I felt for her. I really did. Nobody deserves to be cheated on. So when she called me crying, I listened. I was a good sister. I sent her flowers and a care package. I called her every week to check in. But then the divorce was finalized, and Victoria got half of nothing, because Brandon had nothing. All that money they'd been spending, that was from his parents, and his parents cut him off when they found out about the affair. The house was in foreclosure. The cars were repossessed. Victoria was left with a bunch of designer handbags and a pile of debt. She had to move back in with our parents. At 35 years old, and that's when the real phone calls started. "Eve, your sister's going through a hard time." This was my father, calling from his golf club. I could hear the clink of ice in a glass. Probably bourbon. "She needs family right now. She needs your help." "I've been helping, Daddy. I talk to her every week. I send her money for her birthday." "Well, she needs more than birthday money, Eve. She needs to get back on her feet. I was thinking you could give her a job at your company. You know, something easy with a good salary. She's family." I closed my eyes and counted to 10. "Daddy, I can't just create a position for someone who isn't qualified. That's not how business works." "Don't you use that tone with me, young lady. Family helps family. Or did you forget where you came from now that you're some big-shot businesswoman? That stung. It was meant to sting. But I held firm. If Victoria wants to work for my company, she can apply like anyone else. Send in a resume. Go through the interview process. If she's qualified, I'll consider it. Victoria never sent a resume, but the calls didn't stop. They just changed tactics. Part 3. The diagnosis. 2 years after Victoria's divorce, my mother got sick. Cancer. Stage 3 breast cancer. Now, I need you to understand something. Despite everything, despite the favoritism and the neglect and all of it, I loved my mother. She was flawed. She was human. But she was my mother. So I came home, took a leave from my business, and moved back to my hometown for 6 months to help with her treatment. I drove her to chemotherapy appointments. I held her hair when she got sick. I researched doctors and treatment options and clinical trials. Victoria was there too, technically. She lived in the house after all. But her version of helping was sitting on the couch watching TV while I did everything else. When I'd ask her to help, she'd say she was too emotionally overwhelmed or not good with medical stuff. My mother beat the cancer. The doctor said it was a miracle. I said it was excellent medical care and a strong will to live. The day my mother got her final clear scan, we had a family dinner to celebrate. Everyone was crying happy tears, hugging, praising God. It was beautiful. And then my mother looked at me and said, "Eve, I need to talk to you about something important." We went into her bedroom, just the two of us. She sat on the edge of her bed, the one she'd shared with my father for 40 years, and patted the space next to her. "Baby, I've been thinking a lot during this whole ordeal. About life, about death, about what really matters." I held her hand. It was thinner than I remembered, more fragile. The chemo had taken a toll. "I've been thinking about you and Victoria, about how different your lives are. You've been so blessed, Eve. You've built this incredible business. You're making all this money. You've been given so much." Something in my chest tightened. I knew where this was going. "And your sister, she struggled so much. The divorce, the financial troubles, she's had such a hard time. And I was thinking, maybe God blessed you so abundantly so that you could bless your sister, so that you could help family." "Mama, now I'm not asking you to give her everything. Just maybe help her out a little. Maybe give her some money to get her own place. Help her get on her feet. You have so much, baby. And she has so little. It's only fair." Fair? That word. As if it was fair that they'd paid for Victoria's entire college education while I took out loans. As if it was fair that Victoria got a car and I got responsibility lessons. As if it was fair that I'd spent 6 months of my life caring for a mother who thought I owed my spoiled sister my hard-earned money. But she'd just beaten cancer. She was fragile. She was my mother. So I said, "Let me think about it, Mama." She smiled and hugged me. "I knew you'd understand. You've always been such a good girl, Eve. So responsible." Responsible. There was that word again. The word they'd used my whole life to justify treating me like less than. Part 4. The Family Meeting. A month after my mother's remission celebration, my father called a family meeting, said we needed to discuss important family matters. I drove to their house on a Sunday afternoon, the same house I'd grown up in. A modest 3-bedroom ranch in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but comfortable. Paid off years ago. When I walked in, I knew something was up. My parents were sitting on the couch, dressed nice, like they were going to church. Victoria was in the armchair, wearing what I recognized as a new outfit, probably expensive. And there were two other people in the room I didn't recognize, a man and a woman, both in business attire, holding briefcases. "Eve, honey, come sit down," my mother said, patting the spot next to her. "What's going on? Who are these people?" The man stood up and extended his hand. "Ms. Montgomery, I'm Richard Chen, and this is my colleague Susan Walsh. We're estate planning attorneys your parents have hired." Estate planning. My stomach dropped. "Attorneys? Mama, what is this about?" My father cleared his throat, that official throat clear he used when he was about to say something he thought was important. "Eve, your mother and I aren't getting any younger. The cancer scare made us realize we need to get our affairs in order. We need to talk about what happens to our assets when we're gone." "Okay," I said slowly, sitting down. "But why do I need to be here for this? That's between you and your lawyers." "Because it involves you," Victoria spoke up. She had this strange look on her face, almost smug. "It involves both of us." Susan Walsh pulled out some documents from her briefcase. "Your parents have been working with us to create a comprehensive estate plan. They have some assets, this house, some retirement accounts, life insurance policies. Standard middle-class estate, probably worth around $300,000 total." I nodded. That sounded about right. "They want to split everything 50-50 between you and Victoria." Very straightforward. "But there's a complication." "What complication?" My mother took my hand. Hers was trembling. "Baby, we know you're doing so well. You have your business, you're making good money. You don't need our little bit of money. But Victoria, she's struggling. She really needs help." "Oh no. Oh no, no, no. What are you saying, Mama?" Richard Chen spoke up. "What your parents are proposing is that when the time comes, you would waive your half of the inheritance and allow Victoria to receive the full estate. Given your financial position, this would be the most equitable solution." Equitable. There was that word again, masquerading as fair. "You want me to just give up my inheritance?" I looked at my parents, then at Victoria, then back at the lawyers. "You called me here to ask me to give away my inheritance to my sister?" "It's not giving it away, sweetie," my mother said. "It's sharing. It's being a good sister. You don't need it. Victoria does." "That's not the point. The point is you're being selfish," Victoria cut in. Her voice was sharp. "You have millions, Eve, millions, and you won't even help your own sister? Your own family? I built that from nothing. I worked my entire life." "And we're so proud of you for that, baby," my father said. "Which is exactly why we know you'll do the right thing here. We raised you to be caring and generous." I couldn't believe this was happening. I looked at the lawyers. "Did they tell you I paid for Mama's cancer treatments? All of them? That I spent 6 months here, taking care of her while Victoria sat on the couch?" Susan Walsh looked uncomfortable. "Ms. Montgomery, we're just here to facilitate the legal documentation. I need some air." I stood up. "I need to think about this." "Think fast," Victoria said, "because Mama and Daddy aren't getting any younger. And I need help now, not later." I walked out of that house, got in my car, and drove. I drove for 2 hours, just processing what had happened. My own family, my own blood, trying to manipulate me into giving away my inheritance before they were even dead. But something was nagging at me. Something didn't add up. Why now? Why the sudden urgency? Why the lawyers? I decided to find out. Part 5. The Investigation. I hired a private investigator. Best money I ever spent. His name was Marcus Delgado, former cop turned private eye. I told him I needed to know everything about my family's financial situation and my sister's activities over the past year. What he found made my blood boil. First, my parents. Turns out their estate wasn't worth $300,000. It was worth closer to $700,000. They'd lied about the value, probably hoping I wouldn't bother to check. Second, Victoria. Oh, Victoria, my struggling sister who needed help so badly. Marcus found out she'd gotten engaged to a man named Robert, who owned a successful chain of auto repair shops. Rich. Very rich. The engagement ring alone cost $45,000. But Victoria hadn't told the family about the engagement yet. Why? Because she was planning to wait until after she secured the inheritance. Then she'd have her own money and Robert's money. But it got worse. So much worse. Marcus dug deeper into Victoria's divorce from Brandon. Turns out the story I'd been told, that Brandon left her for a yoga instructor and left her with nothing, was only partially true. Yes, Brandon had an affair. But Victoria? Victoria had been hiding money throughout the marriage. She had a secret bank account. In that account was $83,000. Money she'd hidden from Brandon during the divorce proceedings. Money she claimed didn't exist. Money that, if the court had known about it, would have changed the settlement. So Victoria wasn't broke. She was lying. And my parents? Marcus found evidence that they knew about Robert. They'd met him multiple times. They knew Victoria wasn't struggling. They were helping her con me. But why? Why would they do this? I called Marcus. Keep digging. There's more to this. I can feel it. 2 weeks later, he called me back. Eve, you need to sit down for this. I sat. I found something. About 6 years ago, your parents took out a home equity line of credit on their house. A big one. $250,000. For what? That's what I tried to figure out. Took some digging. But I found it. They gave it to Victoria. Or more specifically, to Victoria and Brandon. It was supposed to be for Brandon's business venture. Some investment opportunity. My head was spinning. What business venture? That's the thing. There was no business. Brandon lost it all. Gambled it away, apparently. He had a serious gambling problem nobody knew about. That's really why his parents cut him off. Not the affair. They didn't care about that. But he'd already bled them dry with his gambling debts. So the money is gone? All of it. And your parents have been making minimum payments on that home equity loan ever since. They're drowning in debt, Eve. They're about to lose the house. Everything clicked into place. The estate planning, the urgency, the lawyers. They weren't planning for their deaths. They were planning for their bankruptcy. They were going to take your inheritance and use it to pay off their debts. Marcus said, debts they incurred helping Victoria, and they were going to make you think you were being a good daughter by agreeing to it. I thanked Marcus, paid him double his fee, and sat in my office until dark. Just sitting, just thinking, just feeling the weight of betrayal settle on my shoulders like a heavy coat. My family, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, they'd been planning to rob me, not just of money, but of dignity. They were going to manipulate me emotionally, use my love for them against me, and take what was rightfully mine to cover up for Victoria's and Brandon's mistakes. And you know what the worst part was? If I'd said no, I would have been the villain. Selfish Eve, rich Eve, who wouldn't help her struggling family. But I wasn't going to be the villain, not this time. I was going to be something else entirely. Part 6, The Decision. I spent the next month making plans, careful plans, strategic plans, because if I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. First, I hired my own estate attorney, a good one. I had him review everything. My assets, my business, my accounts, every penny accounted for and protected. My company was worth approximately $12 million. I had another $3 million in various investments and savings. Total net worth, $15 million. $15 million that I'd earned, that I'd built. That was mine. I thought about what to do with it. I could leave it to Victoria, prove I was the bigger person, but that would just reward her manipulation. I could split it among various family members, but they'd all known what was happening. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, they'd all been whispering behind my back about how I should help poor Victoria. So I made a decision that felt right in my bones. I was going to give it away, all of it, but not to Victoria, not to family, to strangers, to people who actually deserved it. I started research. Charities, non-profits, causes I believed in. I found scholarship funds for underprivileged students, kids like me, who had to work their way through school. I found organizations helping survivors of domestic violence. I found programs supporting Black women entrepreneurs. I made a list, a comprehensive list of organizations that were doing real work, making real change. And then I made another call to my attorney. I want to set up a charitable foundation, I told him. In my mother's name, the Claire Montgomery Foundation for Women's Empowerment. That's very generous, Eve. How much are you thinking? $15 million. The entire estate. Everything. There was silence on the other end. Eve, are you sure? That's your entire net worth? I'm sure. But I need you to structure it so that no family members can benefit. None. Not now, not ever. It goes to help women who are actually struggling, not women pretending to struggle. I can do that. Good. And I want it announced publicly. I want a press release. I want a ceremony. I want my family to find out the same way everyone else does. Eve, they tried to rob me, David. They tried to manipulate me into giving away my inheritance while they're still alive. They deserve this. He sighed. Okay, I'll draw up the papers. It took 6 weeks to set everything up. 6 weeks of meetings with attorneys, accountants, and the boards of various charitable organizations. 6 weeks of planning the biggest power move of my life. During those 6 weeks, Victoria called me 4 times. Each time, she was just checking in, but really fishing for information. Have you thought about what Mama and Daddy talked to you about? The estate planning thing? I'm still thinking, I'd tell her. Well, don't think too long. You know they're not getting younger. The manipulation was so blatant, it was almost funny. My mother called too. Baby, we haven't heard from you in a while. Are you mad at us? No, Mama. Just busy with work. Have you made a decision about the inheritance? I'm working on it. Good, good. You know, Victoria's really struggling. She might lose her apartment. I keep thinking if you could just help her with a few months' rent. Mama, I said I'm working on it. Every call was the same. Every call was them pushing, manipulating, trying to break me down. But I wasn't breaking. I was planning. Part 7, the announcement. The press conference was scheduled for a Tuesday morning at the Hilton downtown. I'd invited the media, representatives from all the charities I was donating to, and most importantly, my family. I sent formal invitations to my parents and Victoria. Important announcement regarding my estate planning and charitable giving. Please attend. This concerns you directly. They thought they were about to get their money. I could tell from Victoria's text. So excited for your big announcement. I'll be there with bells on. The conference room was packed when I arrived. News cameras, reporters, representatives from women's shelters, scholarship funds, and entrepreneurial programs. And in the front row, my family. My parents looked proud. Victoria looked smug. They thought this was my big moment of generosity toward them. I stepped up to the podium, cleared my throat, looked directly at my family. Thank you all for coming today. I've asked you here to announce the creation of the Claire Montgomery Foundation for Women's Empowerment, named after my mother. My mother gasped, hand to her chest. She looked so happy, so touched. For years, I've watched women struggle. Women who work 2 jobs and still can't pay their bills. Women who have dreams but no opportunities. Women who deserve better but don't have the resources to get there. I've been blessed in my life. I've built a successful business, and I've decided it's time to give back. Victoria was beaming. She thought this was leading to her getting money. That's why I'm donating my entire estate, $15 million, to this foundation. Every single penny will go to helping women in need, scholarships for women putting themselves through school, grants for women starting businesses, support for women leaving abusive situations, real help for women who really need it. The room erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. The charity representatives were crying. And my family? My family looked like they'd been slapped. Victoria's smile froze on her face. My mother's hand dropped from her chest. My father's jaw actually dropped open. I kept talking. I'm making this donation in full today. The paperwork is already signed. The money has already been transferred. This foundation will be independently managed by a board of directors, and no family members will have any access to or control over these funds. This money will help strangers, people who deserve help, people who aren't asking for handouts, but for hand-ups. Victoria stood up. Her face was red. "What about me?" she shouted. "What about family?" The room went silent. Every camera turned to her. "What about you, Victoria?" I asked calmly. "You mean the sister who's secretly engaged to a millionaire? The sister who has $83,000 hidden in a bank account while crying poverty? That sister?" Her face went white. "Or maybe you're talking about the $300,000 in inheritance you were trying to manipulate me into giving you, even though you don't need it, even though you lied about needing it." My mother tried to stand up. "Eve, that's not what, Mama? Not fair? You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about the $250,000 you gave Victoria and Brandon 6 years ago. The money you used from a home equity loan. The money Brandon gambled away. The money you're now trying to pay back by stealing my inheritance." The reporters were scribbling furiously. This was better than they hoped for. My father's voice was weak. How did I find out? Because unlike you, I didn't just trust blindly. I investigated. I hired professionals. And I found out everything. Every lie, every manipulation, every plan to rob me while making me think I was being a good daughter. Victoria was crying now. Not pretty crying, ugly crying, mascara running down her face. You can't do this. That money should be mine. I'm your sister. You're right, I said. You are my sister, and you've spent your entire life taking from me, taking my parents' attention, taking their money, taking opportunities. And now you wanted to take $15 million that I earned, that I built, that I deserve. Well, guess what, Victoria? The taking stops today. I turn to the cameras. The Claire Montgomery Foundation will begin accepting applications next month. Any woman who needs help, real help, not fake poverty, can apply. We'll verify every application, every story, every need, and we'll help the ones who deserve it. The ones who work hard. The ones who've been forgotten by their families. The ones who remind me of myself. Security had to escort my family out. They were screaming, causing a scene. My mother was crying, saying I destroyed the family. My father was threatening to sue. Victoria was just screaming incoherently. But I stayed calm, stayed composed, finished the press conference, smiled for the cameras, shook hands with the charity representatives who couldn't stop thanking me. And when I finally got to my car, when I finally sat down in the driver's seat and closed the door, I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 30 years. I was free. Part 8. The Fallout. The story went viral. Of course it did. Millionaire businesswoman donates entire fortune to strangers instead of family was too juicy not to spread. Some people thought I was a hero. Others thought I was cruel. The comment sections were brutal. She's a saint. She's bitter. Family is everything. Family are the biggest thieves. I didn't read most of them. Didn't care. My parents tried to call me exactly once. I didn't answer. They left a voicemail. My father's voice was cold. You're dead to us, Eve. You've always been selfish, and now you've proven it to the world. Don't bother coming to our funerals. I deleted the voicemail. Victoria tried a different approach. She sent me a letter. A long letter, handwritten on fancy stationery. It started with, "I'm sorry," and ended with, "Please reconsider." In between was a whole lot of manipulation disguised as remorse. I know I made mistakes, but I'm your sister. Blood is thicker than water. Mama and Daddy are devastated. Daddy's blood pressure is through the roof. Mama cries every day. Is this really what you want? To destroy your family over money? I wrote back exactly 5 words. You destroyed it first. Goodbye. The extended family took sides. Some sided with my parents and Victoria, called me heartless, said I was wrong. A few aunts and uncles stopped speaking to me, but some sided with me. Cousins who'd also been treated as less than by my parents. Family members who'd watched Victoria get special treatment her whole life. They reached out quietly, privately, to say, "I'm proud of you, and you did the right thing." The best call came from my Aunt Sharon, my mother's sister. We'd never been particularly close, but she called me a week after the press conference. "Eve, I just want you to know something. She's been calling everyone, crying, saying you abandoned her in her time of need." "I know, Aunt Sharon, but I want you to know that I see through it. I've always seen through it. The way they treated you versus Victoria, it wasn't right. It was never right. And what you did, standing up for yourself, that took guts. Your mama could never do what you did. That's why she's so angry. Thank you for saying that. One more thing. Your mama told me about the cancer treatments, how you paid for everything, took care of her. She conveniently left that part out when telling everyone how ungrateful you are. Just wanted you to know I know, and I think what you did, both paying for her treatment and refusing to let them steal from you, that's what real strength looks like. I cried after that call. Not sad crying, relieved crying. because at least one person saw me. Really saw me. Part 9. The foundation launches. 3 months after the press conference, the Claire Montgomery Foundation officially opened for applications. We were flooded. Absolutely flooded. Thousands of applications. Women from all walks of life. Single mothers working 3 jobs. Immigrants trying to start businesses. Survivors of abuse trying to rebuild their lives. College students drowning in debt. My team, I'd hired a full staff to run the foundation, carefully vetted every application. We checked references. We verified stories. We made sure the need was real. And then we started giving money away. The first recipient was a woman named Maria. She was 42 years old, working as a housekeeper while putting herself through nursing school. She'd been in an abusive marriage for 15 years, finally left with her 3 kids, and was trying to build a new life. She needed $10,000 to finish her last year of nursing school. We gave her $15,000, the extra $5 for living expenses while she studied. When I called to tell her, she cried so hard she couldn't speak. Her daughter took the phone and said, "Thank you for believing in my mama. Nobody ever believed in her before." That moment right there, that made every penny worth it. The second recipient was a 23-year-old named Jasmine. She'd aged out of foster care at 18 with nothing. No family, no support, nothing. But she'd managed to get herself through community college, working at Target, and living in her car. She wanted to start a catering business, but needed money for equipment and licensing. We gave her $25,000, enough to get her business off the ground properly. 6 months later, she sent me a photo. Her first catering truck, wrapped in bright colors with her business name on the side. Jasmine's Kitchen, food made with love. She was standing in front of it, grinning from ear to ear. "I'm going to make you proud, Miss Eve," she wrote. "I'm going to show the world that foster kids can make it too." Story after story, woman after woman, each one deserving, each one grateful, each one actually using the money to better their lives. We gave scholarships to 32 women that first year. We funded 17 small businesses. We helped 43 women escape domestic violence situations. We provided housing assistance to 61 single mothers. Real help to real people. And you know what? It felt better than any business deal I'd ever made. Better than any profit margin. Better than anything. Because I wasn't just giving away money. I was giving women the same thing I'd had to fight for my whole life. A chance. Part 10. Victoria's Wedding. 6 months after the foundation launch, I got a wedding invitation in the mail. Victoria and Robert. Big fancy wedding at some country club. 200 guests. I wasn't surprised I got an invitation. Victoria was petty enough to invite me just so she could show off. Show me that she was fine without my money. That she'd landed herself a rich man and didn't need me. What surprised me was that I actually considered going. My therapist, I'd started seeing a therapist after all this, because betrayal by your whole family will mess you up. She asked me why I wanted to go. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe to prove I'm the bigger person? Maybe to show them I'm not bitter?" "Eve," she said gently, "you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You already proved everything by building a life on your own terms. The question isn't whether you should go. The question is whether you want to go." Did I want to go? I thought about it for days, went back and forth, made lists of pros and cons like it was a business decision. Finally, I decided. I would go, but not for Victoria, for me. To close this chapter, to see them one last time and then walk away for good. I bought a beautiful dress. Nothing too flashy, but expensive enough that they'd know I was doing just fine. I went alone, didn't bring a date because I didn't need the support. This was my moment. The country club was gorgeous. White roses everywhere, string quartet playing, open bar. Victoria had gone all out. I walked in and heads turned. People whispered. Everyone knew who I was. The infamous Eve who'd given away $15 million out of spite. That's what they thought anyway. I found my seat, table 12, in the back. Not with family, with random guests I didn't know. The placement was deliberate, meant to put me in my place, but I didn't care. I smiled, introduced myself to my table mates, and waited for the ceremony to start. Victoria looked beautiful. I'll give her that. Her dress probably cost more than most people's cars. Robert looked pleased with himself, like he'd won some kind of prize. The ceremony was traditional. Love and honor and cherish. Till death do us part. All the promises, all the hope. I watched my parents in the front row. They looked older, more tired. My mother kept dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. My father sat stiff and formal in his suit. After the ceremony, during the cocktail hour, my mother approached me. I saw her coming, steeled myself for whatever was about to happen. "Eve," she said quietly, "I didn't think you'd come. I almost didn't." "Why did you?" I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd given birth to me, raised me, and then tried to rob me. This woman who I'd loved my whole life despite everything. "Closure," I said simply. "I came for closure." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I want you to know I'm sorry for everything, for the way we treated you, for the way we tried to manipulate you. Your father and I, we made a mistake with that loan to Victoria, and we panicked. We handled it all wrong." "You did. Can you ever forgive us?" I thought about that question. Could I? Should I? What would forgiveness even look like? "Mama," I said finally, "I can forgive you, but I can't forget, and I can't go back to the way things were. You showed me who you really are, and who I really am to you. I'm the backup plan, the safety net, the responsible one who's supposed to sacrifice so everyone else can be happy. And I'm done with that role." "So that's it? You're just going to cut us out of your life forever?" "No. I'll send cards on birthdays. I'll check in on holidays. But we're not going to be close. We're not going to be the family you wanted us to be. Because that family was built on a lie. And I'm done living lies." My mother looked like I'd slapped her, but she nodded. "I understand. I don't like it, but I understand." She walked away, and I felt something release in my chest, a weight I'd been carrying for 30 years. The weight of trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Victoria saw me later, during the reception. She was tipsy from champagne, laughing too loud with her friends. When she spotted me, she excused herself and walked over. "Well, well, well," she said, swaying slightly. "Look who decided to show up. The famous Eve Montgomery, destroyer of families. Victoria, you're drunk." "So what if I am? It's my wedding. I can be drunk at my own wedding. And you know what? I'm glad you came. Because I wanted you to see this. See what I accomplished without your money. I got a rich husband, a beautiful wedding, everything I wanted. and I didn't need you." I looked at her, this woman, and that's okay, because I don't need you either. I hope you're happy, Victoria. I genuinely hope this marriage works out for you, that Robert treats you well, that you build a good life together. She blinked, surprised by my sincerity. But I also hope you learn something from all this, that you can't spend your whole life taking from people and expecting them to thank you for it. That eventually, people run out of things to give. And when they do, you'll be left with nothing but your own choices. Are you seriously lecturing me at my wedding? No, I'm saying goodbye. Really saying goodbye this time. Take care of yourself, Victoria. I walked away before she could respond, grabbed my clutch from my table, told my table mates it was lovely meeting them, and headed for the exit. But before I could leave, my father intercepted me in the hallway. "Running away again?" he said. His voice had that old edge to it. The one he used when he was disappointed in me. Not, "Rue, you know what your problem is, Eve? You never learned how to forgive. You hold grudges. You're bitter. That's why you're alone." That stung. It was meant to sting, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I smiled. "You're right, Daddy. I am alone, but I'm not lonely. There's a difference there too. I'm alone because I chose to walk away from people who hurt me, and I'm okay with that choice. Can you say the same about your choices?" He didn't have an answer for that. I left the country club, got in my car, and drove home. And you know what I felt? Peace. Pure, simple peace. Part 11. 2 years later. 2 years after Victoria's wedding, the Claire Montgomery Foundation had helped over 300 women. We'd given away 8 million of the 15 million. The rest was invested and generating returns that allowed us to help even more people. The foundation had become my life's work. I still ran my consulting business, but the foundation was my passion. Every application I read, every woman I helped, it healed something in me. I got letters, so many letters, women thanking me for believing in them, for giving them a chance, for seeing their potential when nobody else did. One letter in particular stuck with me. It was from a woman named Ruth. She was 60 years old, had spent 40 years in an abusive marriage, finally left, and was trying to start over with nothing. We'd given her money for an apartment deposit and job training. She wrote, "Miss Montgomery, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need you to know something. You saved my life. Not just literally, though you did that too, but you saved my spirit. For 40 years, I believed I was worthless, that nobody would ever invest in me, that I was too old, too damaged, too nothing to deserve help. And then your foundation gave me $15,000 and told me I was worth it. Do you know what that did to me? It made me believe I was worth it. And that belief changed everything. I got my GED, got a job, got my own apartment, started going to therapy, started building a life. All because you believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. So thank you. Thank you for being the mother I never had. Thank you for being the sister I always wanted. Thank you for showing me that there are still good people in this world. I cried when I read that letter, kept it in my desk drawer, read it whenever I needed a reminder of why I'd made the choice I did. As for my family, I heard things through the grapevine. My parents had downsized to a smaller house, finally sold the old one to pay off their debts. They were managing, but barely. Victoria and Robert were still married, had a baby on the way. Everyone seemed to be moving on with their lives. And so was I. I started dating again. Nothing serious, just putting myself out there. Met some nice people. Some not so nice people. Had some fun, had some disappointments. Normal life stuff. I traveled, went to Italy, spent 2 weeks eating pasta and drinking wine and not thinking about family drama. Went to Ghana, traced my ancestry, felt connected to something bigger than myself. Went to Japan, found peace in the quiet gardens and ancient temples. I made new friends, real friends, people who liked me for me, not for what I could give them. People who showed up when I needed them. People who celebrated my successes without jealousy. I built a life, a good life, a life on my own terms. And sometimes, late at night when I couldn't sleep, I'd think about that family meeting. The one where they'd tried to rob me. And I'd wonder what would have happened if I'd said yes, if I'd given them the money. Would they have been grateful? Would it have brought us closer? Would it have healed our family? No. I know the answer is no. Because people like that, people who feel entitled to your money, to your success, to your sacrifices, they're never satisfied. Give them an inch and they'll take a mile. Give them 15 million and they'll ask why it wasn't 20. The truth is, I didn't give my money to strangers to punish my family. I gave it to strangers to honor myself, to honor every sacrifice I'd made, every hour I'd worked, every obstacle I'd overcome. My money wasn't my family's consolation prize for failing at life. It was my reward for succeeding at it. And I chose to share that reward with people who reminded me of myself, people who were fighting, people who were trying, people who deserved a chance. Part 12, the phone call. 3 years after the press conference, my phone rang at 2 a.m. I almost didn't answer. Nothing good ever comes from a 2 a.m. phone call. But something made me pick up. It was my father. His voice was shaking. "Eve, it's your mother. She's in the hospital. Heart attack. They don't know if she's going to make it. You need to come." I got dressed in a daze, drove to the hospital in silence, walked through those sterile white hallways like I was moving through water. The ICU waiting room was full. Victoria was there with Robert. My father was pacing. Various aunts and uncles I hadn't seen in 3 years were scattered around, talking in hushed voices. They all looked up when I walked in. The room went silent. "How is she?" I asked my father. "Critical. They're doing everything they can. The next 24 hours will tell." I nodded, sat down in a chair by myself, waited. Victoria approached me after an hour, sat down next to me without asking. "I'm glad you came," she said. "She's my mother." "I know. I wasn't sure you'd come. After everything." "After you tried to rob me, you mean?" She flinched. "Eve, I was wrong. I know that now. I've known it for a while. But I didn't know how to say it. How to apologize in a way that would matter." "So why are you saying it now? Because Mama might die?" "No, because I'm saying it while she might still live, while there's still time to make things right. Not just with her, but with you." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in 3 years. She looked different, older, tired, less polished, more real. "Victoria, you can't make things right. What you did, what you all did, that broke something, and I don't know if it can be fixed. Can we try?" Her eyes were wet with tears. "Can we at least try? Because I'm tired, Eve. I'm so tired of being the person I was, the person who took and never gave back. I have a daughter now, a 6-month-old daughter, and when I look at her, I think about what kind of person I want her to be. And I don't want her to be like me. I want her to be like you. That surprised me. Like me? Strong, independent, someone who doesn't need anyone's approval, someone who builds her own life. You did that, Eve. And I've spent 3 years resenting you for it because it made me look at my own failures. But I don't want to resent you anymore. I want to learn from you, if you'll let me. Before I could respond, a doctor came out. We all stood up. She's stable, he said. She pulled through. She's going to make it. The relief in that room was palpable. People were crying, hugging, thanking God. My father grabbed my hand, squeezed it. Thank you for coming, Eve. Thank you. I stayed at the hospital for 3 days while my mother recovered. Slept in uncomfortable chairs. Drank terrible coffee. Sat by her bedside when she was finally awake enough for visitors. When it was just the two of us, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. Her voice was hoarse from the breathing tube they'd had to use. I'm sorry for everything, for favoring Victoria, for trying to manipulate you, for being a bad mother. Mama, you weren't a bad mother. You were a flawed mother. There's a difference. Can you forgive me? I thought about that question. The same question she'd asked me at Victoria's wedding. The question I'd answered with conditional forgiveness. But something had changed in me over the past 3 years. Something had softened. Maybe it was all the women I'd helped. Maybe it was the therapy. Maybe it was just time. Yes, I said. I can forgive you. I do forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean going back to the way things were. It means accepting what happened and choosing to move forward without the weight of anger. She nodded. That's fair. That's more than fair. Eve, I want you to know something. I'm proud of you. I should have said that a long time ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of the woman you've become. I'm proud of what you've built. And I'm proud of what you did with your money, the foundation, helping all those women. That's real legacy. That's real impact. That's better than any inheritance. Those words, those simple words, they healed something in me I didn't even know was still broken. Epilogue, what money can't buy. So here we are, honey. 5 years after I gave away $15 million. 5 years after I became the villain in my family's story. You want to know if I regret it? You want to know if I wish I'd done things differently? Not for a second. The Claire Montgomery Foundation has now helped over 1,000 women. 1,000 women who needed a chance and got one. 1,000 women who are building better lives, raising kids, starting businesses, going to school, leaving bad situations. Some of them write to me. Some of them visit. Some of them have become friends. Real friends. The kind of family you choose, not the kind you're born into. My relationship with my biological family, it's better. Not perfect, but better. We have dinner once a month, but talk on the phone. We're working on rebuilding trust. It's slow, it's hard, but it's real. Victoria and I, we're not close. Probably never will be. But we're civil. We're cordial. And she's actually started volunteering at the foundation. Just a few hours a month, helping with fundraising events. It's a start. My parents, they're downsized, living simpler lives. And honestly, they seem happier, less stressed, less focused on keeping up appearances, more focused on what actually matters. And me? I'm living my best life. I built my business back up after giving away most of my money. Not to 15 million again, but to a comfortable 5 million. More than enough. more than I need. I met someone too, a man named David. He's a teacher, makes a modest salary, drives a 10-year-old Honda, and he's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because he loves me for me, not for my money, not for what I can give him, just for me. Last month, he asked me to marry him. I said yes. My parents are happy for me. Victoria seems genuinely happy for me. And you know what? Their happiness doesn't feel obligatory anymore. It feels real. So what's the moral of this story? What's the lesson you're supposed to take away from all this drama? All this family dysfunction? All this money and betrayal and redemption? Here's what I learned. Money doesn't buy you love, but it does show you who really loves you. When I had $15 million, my family loved what I could give them. When I gave it all away, they hated me. And now that I've rebuilt to $5 million and made it clear they're never getting a penny, now they love me for real. Or at least they're trying. The women I helped through the foundation, they loved me when I had money to give, but they also love me now, even though the big donations are over and the foundation is sustainably funded through investments. They love me because I saw them, because I believed in them, because I gave them more than money. I gave them dignity. David, he met me after I'd given away most of my money. He fell in love with me when I was rebuilding, when I was vulnerable, when I wasn't some millionaire businesswoman, but just Eve, just a woman trying to figure out her life. That's real love, honey, the kind that shows up when you have nothing to give but yourself. And as for Victoria's original question, the one that started all this mess, what about me? What about family? Here's my answer. Family is whoever shows up for you when it doesn't benefit them. Family is whoever loves you when you're at your lowest, not just when you're at your highest. Family is whoever sees your worth even when your bank account is empty. Blood doesn't make you family. Love does. Respect does. Showing up does. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for your blood family is to set boundaries, to say no, to protect yourself, to show them that love isn't transactional, that they can't just take and expect you to keep giving. So yeah, I gave $15 million to strangers, and it was the best decision I ever made, because it taught me who I really was. It taught my family who they really were. And it gave 1,000 women the same thing I'd had to fight for my whole life. A chance. Now, I've been talking for almost an hour, and your tea is definitely cold by now. But I hope you heard what I really wanted to say. Money is just paper. Just numbers in an account. It can buy you comfort, security, even happiness sometimes. But it can't buy you dignity. It can't buy you self-respect. And it definitely can't buy you the kind of love that actually matters. The real fortune, the real $15 million prize isn't in your bank account. It's in knowing your worth. It's in standing up for yourself. It's in choosing yourself when everyone else expects you to sacrifice. That's the fortune my family wanted me to give away. My sense of worth, my dignity, my right to say no. And honey, that's the one fortune I'll never give to anyone, not even to strangers. Because that fortune, that's the only one that really matters. The end. Told by Eve, a woman who chose dignity over dollars, strangers over blood, and herself over everyone else's expectations.